as presented, my name is Ofir Schlam. I'm the CEO and one of the co-founders of Taranis. And we're working the last 3 years to perfect our solution on mostly around crop, insect, weeds detection, which can bring a lot of value to growers, as we built countless case studies over the last 3 years. Today we work with farmers over 1 million acres across US, Canada, Brazil, Argentina, Russia, and Ukraine. So it's already tested quite broadly on a lot of different crops. And we're really glad to collaborate with farmers of North America to bring this technology to all their members in very attractive terms, and be able to help with this coming season results. So just to explain briefly what is Taranis. So we're a digital agronomy platform, similar to others on the market, but we do bring some, at least 2 very unique deliverables in our platform that are not available in any other platform today. So I just want to go over the main data sources that we're analyzing, but eventually what you should keep in mind is it's very, very simple report for the growers to just act on what we found based on our analysis. So on that side of the data, it may sound complicated and takes a lot of time, but that's on our side and our software side, and what you get is very, very actionable information that also see. So one aspect of the platform is its use of satellite imagery. Probably most of you have seen this application before, and the only thing we're doing differently is we're tapping into a lot more satellite sources, almost all the different satellite constellations that have access to any point on Earth. So today we're using more than 100 different satellites, and we can get coverage of any field all over the world every 2 days. And then we do our analysis of it to find potential anomalies, and also feed it into other layers in the platform, such as doing variable rate applications, fertilizer, for instance. So the platform supports using the satellite imagery and also the yield maps, samples, and interpolate it into the economic zones of the farm. So very easily, farm manager or a consultant or an agronomist can use it to make a very accurate prescription using as little fertilizer as possible and still maximizing yields in each management zone. So that is enabled by our platform and the satellite imagery. One new layer that is proprietary and available only on our platform is we actually perform flyovers the farm, usually 4 of those flyovers in the season, in very specific agronomic timing. So basically look at the planting date and figure out the dates we should visit each of your farms, fly over with either planes or drones, and capture, this is a real image, and this is just at 15%. So you can actually zoom in on a leaf level, and that's the only aerial imagery solution that can get to this resolution, which is 0.3 millimeters per pixel, which means we can actually see defoliation on leaf level and even count caterpillars, moths, and even a group of aphids, spot them on a single leaf. So that's the only solution that can scan leaf by leaf and find all the very, very small problems as early as possible, and then translate into preventing those problems. I'll get to more use cases of that later. We also have a scouting platform. So looking at the satellite imagery, we prioritize locations needed for scouting. So of course, when we fly over with our own planes and drones, we'll cover those areas for sure. Plus, if you're doing any manual scouting, then you have our app. It can work offline, even in the rural areas with no signal and Wi-Fi. and you can do any information needed and collect information. And that information will even be analyzed by us according to the top integrated pest management thresholds. So we'll point out alerts based on all the data from all the past scouting reports. One other platform we have is the weather forecast and access to our sensors network. We took also a very different approach than some other solutions like Farmer's Edge that have access to about 7,000 weather stations on their platform. We actually connected to over 220,000 weather stations. So that means we can really assess the rainfall and measurements of the conditions in each location and have really good data for you to access. And then last but not least is our predictive modeling. We have a special system that uses the top research from different plant pathology departments in universities and research institutes. And we can say when the conducive conditions for a specific disease are happening in a specific location on your farm. So we can see the trend of the entire county or state or the entire country and figure out the risk for certain diseases like black leg on canola or white mold or brown spots on soybean and others. So we basically can help look at the risk and then apply preventive spray accordingly, or increase scouting efforts, or perform more of our scouting flights, etc. So that's the whole different levels that we are applying on our platform. And now I want to focus more on the aerial imagery side, because that's one of our most proprietary solutions that brings really good ROI for our clients. So let's start with what's available on the market today and why is it not enough. So on the left here, you see the normal aerial imagery you can possibly get today from different drone operators or aerial imagery operators. And you can basically see some aspects of your field in a kind of a bird's eye view, maybe some planting problems, but you can't really zoom in on specific problems. And when you see them on this scale, it could be too late to prevent or manage. Think about those hyperspectral images you can get. Pretty much shows the same, just in contrast colors, so it's maybe easier to compare, but not by much. So both of these solutions we don't think bring enough ROI, given that they cost about 40 times more than a satellite image, and the resolution is only a little bit better. We don't see it as enough ROI to actually perform that. And there's also a possibility for it to miss or make mistakes. What we're bringing to the market for the first time is going into the micro level, starting with each leaf, but analyzing billions of leaves across the area, and find from a Japanese beetle on a soybean leaf here from Illinois, or doing that for any other pest, disease, weed, and fertilizer issue on any crop, and basically build the whole scouting report of your farm in a very, very fast way. We can scan about 10,000 acres per hour on a single camera system, and we do about a dozen of them for this season. So any of your regions, we have our schedules to fly over, and you can sign up for that, and we'll do this process of flyover, upload all the imagery, analyze it, and produce a report. And that's kind of a turnkey solution that we can bring. And that's all real imagery that we collect. The first sub-millimeter imagery for ag. So obviously scouting today is hard, and not always we have access to the right labor and the high cost it may have, and also mainly the low accuracy and the fact that it's only a partial coverage. It's usually just a few scout points per field, and the whole farm maybe getting a few dozen points. What we do is totally different. We cover almost all of the field, sampling at this resolution, like you see here, and we basically train the system to do the automated detection. And basically like an automated agronomist, you can think about it. So we trained it with the knowledge of 250 agronomists on 1 million images that we collected in the last year, and trained it to detect the different crops and the different diseases, insects, weeds, nutrient diseases, produce an emergence count or scan count. All of this is available through our imagery and analysis. So if you think about it, we found an easy way to combine satellite imagery with different other parts together with our special aerial imagery into better decision making on the farm. That doesn't take too much time to use. We don't expect anyone to be on their computer all day. We just provide these reports that are very easily translated into actions. And I'll show how. So today we fly over one of these platforms, either a drone-based or a plane-based. Doesn't really matter to the client, because we'll choose according to the acreage and how many acres we have to do per day in that specific region. And most likely for Canada scale farms, and we'll use the plane, and we're deploying a few of them at the moment to be ready when the season starts. And you can see below our actual platform, that's where we put our camera system that gets to this amazing resolution. After that, we upload it into the platform and start doing the analysis. So if you think about it, everything I just said, in short, is this process. We fly over each 100-acre field. Takes about 3 minutes for us to scan, and we collect hundreds of points, analyze each leaf on those images, and find the actual weeds, resistant weeds, the insect damage, the actual insects if they're still there, and diseases. It's just some of our detection capabilities. And we do that in huge scale. If it's less than 3 minutes per field, basically what we can do here is a 25,000-acre farm that we covered in less than 2 hours. So we basically covered almost 30 times more what the normal scouting procedure would look like, and did it about 50 times faster. So 50 times faster and about 25 times more data points. So we don't really miss a thing on the farm. We find problems with a very, very high statistical significant result, which means less crop loss, less costs on different applications, just by being a lot more efficient on this process. So we're not only flying over and getting these images, we're also analyzing it for you. So if we have this same farm, 25,000 acres, we flew over it in less than 2 hours, and then you can easily scroll and see any particular problem you want to look at. So let's say you want to see just your insect damage after a flyover. So you can check to see just the defoliation on your leaves over a certain threshold, in this case 5.7% of the area. And we see only these hotspots. And that means we can spray our insecticide potentially just on those areas. And to trust us, obviously it's hard because we just produced this map and we have to understand what is it based on. Why do we have to trust this information? But the good thing is it's almost as good as ground truthing, because you can click on any of this area without even going there and looking at exactly your situation. So all of these was marked by our software. It can recognize the defoliation in this case, or insects or diseases and whatever, all of it automatically. And then we count how many of these boxes we found, what size they have.
What's that?
Okay, so we can even see the insect on a single leaf, like the caterpillar here in the center. And our resolution is so good, we can actually zoom in even 5 times closer, take a really, really close look at that. And we even recognize the name of each insect we see on the insect we trained our system on. On the weeds, I think that's a very interesting value proposition. We can do a survey of the weeds and then also help applying the herbicide just on the locations that need it. And again, you can ground truth it by just clicking on any point and looking at exactly what the system found. So if we found these emerging weeds early on, that's a great opportunity to get rid of it and get a better crop overall, less competitive weeds. And then we do this also after the herbicide application, so we can actually recognize the resistant weeds. And that could mean a lot, right? With the amount of resistant weeds we have all over the world today, with getting closer to hundreds of species that are resistant to some herbicides. It's definitely important to be ahead of that and be able to spot them when they're not, before they take over large portions of the area. And even early in the season, when it's just 10 days after planting or around that time, we can do an exact stand count or crop emergence report and figure out the situation, whether it's a replanting decision or whether it's just knowing the stand count and population to figure out what kind of results we can expect this season. So we run on these full images and find all the missing plants for whatever reason and count the actual population, and then basically producing the report. Same thing about diseases. We can detect the first spots on a single leaf level and find the mold. So it's very, very early symptoms that still let us enough time to prevent the spread of it and protect the 99.9% of the field that is not infected, because we are able to find the first leaf infected. Even for nutrient deficiencies, it's still in research on our side, but we can find the decoloring that points to different micro and macronutrient deficiencies. And we're doing this research project together with some leading universities and fertilizer companies to make sure we spot on ground truth and tissue sample all our results and to get a very, very accurate correlation to tissue samples, but without having to do all the tissue samples and actually just having us fly over. And at the same time, we're looking for the weeds, insects, and diseases. We also point out the nutrient deficiencies. So it's all happening at the same time. Just depends on what there is in each image. So once again, just to point out the difference from all of today's solutions, whether it's satellite, drone-based, aerial imagery-based, there are always false events. For instance, here, basically the blue part here is usually the highest vegetation area, and most people analyzing your satellite image or drone image will tell you that this is the best area and this is the worst area. In fact, this is just high biomass, not necessarily your crop's biomass, but it could also be weeds. When we do our samples, we actually find it. So we recognize the weeds area, and then we point this out so you know it's not actually your best area, but perhaps a problem area. And here looks the same on the drone image. Is it really the same? So only you can actually differentiate without ground truthing.
Junior.
So here we see actually really good biomass compared to a low stand count, and that is accounting for the difference in vegetation index. So basically, what we do is take our samples and extrapolate from them into the satellite image or the higher altitude flyover that takes in the whole field into account and calculate exactly the area affected. So if it's a replanting issue here on this red zone, so we see it throughout our samples that there's a few rows missing, and we correlate it here and see, okay, that's a 50-acre area. Maybe we need to replant that area. So that's basically the idea around this. So what you should know is we're promoting this technology in Western Canada, and together with AgriCity and then FNA, and they're providing an exclusive pricing for our members. So the whole dashboard, 4 of our scans, plus the agronomy advice from the AgriCity consultants. And we know the specific times in the season. It's about every 3 weeks from end of May to middle of August. And of course, that to each zone's planting date. But basically, the entire platform I just presented, this dashboard, and full support from Taranis and AgriCity team. So I think this is a very interesting proposal to worth taking a test with this. So I'm wondering if there's any questions. I have just a few more slides, but if there are any questions until now, definitely cover it. So perhaps I can show a few more case studies, but if you have any more questions. So for instance, this satellite image looks actually good. Not much variability inside this field. In fact, when we fly over with our special imagery technology, we actually found in this healthy area here in the green these first spots of northern corn leaf blight on corn leaves.
Excuse me, Ofir, we did have one question in the chat function. Don Culla asked about cost. Maybe if you could go back to your previous slide there.
Yeah, of course. So basically, the exclusive pricing for FNA members is 4.5 Canadian for 4 scans and our dashboard, which is usually around $7. But kind of exclusive pricing for these clients.
And Ofir, we did have one other question. Scott Artis asks, can you increase the number of flyovers for specialty crops? And what is the process?
Yes, of course. So for instance, really on the value we can gain, obviously we have done a lot of work in potatoes, for instance, and strawberries in California. So the higher value the crop is, probably the higher value that our information is. And basically we don't need as many flyovers as needed, which is $1 an acre per scan. And in potatoes, we usually do over 10 to 20 of them in the season. For strawberries, we even do 50 to 60 of them in the season. So it really depends on each crop value and what's the requirement. And we'll be happy to fly over as many times as needed. Just add that at the same cost. I hope that answers that question. Okay. I don't know if there are any other questions. Just want to show here also how we can apply variable rate prescriptions apart from the fertilizer use case, which is quite well known. We can actually do it for herbicides, insecticides, and fungicides. Think about this heat map that we generate after looking at all the leaves on this farm, looking at all the weeds, and pointing out only the areas that need herbicide application. So we can put a very low dosage or no dosage on the green, higher dosages on the yellow and higher on the red, and actually apply only 70% or less, actually save 70%, I'm sorry, on your herbicides, and just do it more specific. And also, since we can recognize the species of the weeds, we can also suggest which herbicide to use, depending on the weed, to use a more specific approach, and then over time, reducing resistance also. So think about this heat map for weeds, heat map for insects, heat map for a disease. Same reverse heat map for crop emergence, because we want to point out the lowest area of incidence. So, and basically you can apply that to your planter, to your sprayer, spreader for the fertilizer, and work with this platform. We're working on this feature to export it to any type of machinery. So this is the next in line feature that we want to launch during this season. But this is kind of the next step of it. Make it very, very actionable and immediate to use. Right now we're training the system on different canola problems. Anything that can be viewed from the top canopy is basically things that we can detect. So during the season, we'll fly over the area and detect all of these problems. In terms of onboarding, so we'll have full support of your account manager from our team and AgroCity team. So all we have to start off is loading the field boundaries into the platform. If you have additional information like yield maps, any agronomic calendar or crop rotation and varieties you're using, you can put that in as well. We'll create all the usernames with unlimited usernames that you'll want for your farm. Get you trained on the system, of course, and then complete and accept the flight schedule. And of course, there's a full support every day on our platform and on the phone and the email. So basically, you have many ways to reach our representatives to help you with anything you might need. So very, very fast onboarding, and you can immediately start enjoying the platform.
Ofir, we had a couple questions come in on the chat function. First, one member asks, can they sign up just for certain parts of the program? Is it offered in modules, I guess, or is it just the one option for the whole package?
Yes, it is currently presented as a one package because we want to give the best possible package with all the features. If you think about it, normally we price it at $1 an acre, basically $1.50 an acre for each step for the dashboard and for each flight. And in this case, we reduced the price to 4.5 Canadian dollars for all of it. And then you can just add on as many flights as you need. In terms of acres covered, if there may be an opportunity to do not the whole farm if you want to get an understanding of how you manage the farm with and without it. I think it really shows the value. So we obviously recommend covering the entire farm, but if you really want to see an A/B test and seeing an area that you don't have this access and area with, that's a possibility also.
Thanks, Ofir. And then another question is asked, is there any partnering with other online platforms such as John Deere's or Trimble's? So maybe you can speak to the compatibility there.
Yes, of course. So from our satellites, for instance, we can export with shapefile format. So we can easily use that to feed available rate prescription on any of the other platforms like Ag Leader and John Deere. And we are working with them to have even a closer relationship and APIs. So it's even seamlessly without export and import, but just with one click have that sent to the other dashboard of your choice that you're using. Great. I think it's most of what I wanted to share. Perhaps just show you kind of a competitive landscape with maybe companies that you've heard of. What we stand out in is our sub-millimeter imagery. We're the only ones who are capable of doing that. The next in line is in the next order of magnitude, which is in centimeters. And that means it would miss a lot of these problems. And then there's other solutions that are more like tens of centimeters, which is even closer to satellite, and then other solutions that only use satellite. So that's kind of our differentiator and what brings a lot of ROI to our clients compared to the similarly priced or even higher priced platforms that may not give as much value. I think that was most of my planned materials, but if there are more questions at all, happy to address them, and also happy to hear any feedback launch of this platform with FNA. Really happy to hear any of the members' feedback on how they think it could help them or what's missing to make it even more helpful on agronomically managing the farm.
Well, thank you very much, Ofir. So that was a very informative and exciting presentation. And as Ofir has indicated, he is still taking questions. And so there's opportunity to type those into the chat function. We did have a follow-up question, Ofir, to the one that was asked before. So one in the chat function is asking, would the platform work with an Outback or Egg Junction system, and one that appears to use iOS software? So is there any particularities? How does is it compatible with both iOS and other platforms, I guess, Ofir?
Yes, our app is available on Android and iOS, and the dashboard is best used on the computer, either Apple or PC, and could be accessed on a tablet also, but best used on the computer. But there's an app for iOS and Android.
What's the path forward to set up?
Sorry, can you say again?
Scott, did you have a question? Oh, Scott asks if you can just kind of go back and recap on how they would how a person might go about setting up an account. So maybe just speaking a little bit to the process on how that works.
Oh, of course. So all the team at AgriCity to work with our platform. There are 3 people dedicated just for onboarding on this project and giving the full support, and also providing recommendations based on the platform. So 3 agronomists dedicated to this. So you can approach your FNA or AgriCity representative and ask for an account, and we can easily onboard the platform and show some more materials, show some more case studies, get you started, and then making the plans of scheduling the flights for the coming season, and just accept our general kind of terms to sign up.
I had one question, Ofir. I know from a previous presentation you've done a little bit of your own case studies, and maybe if you could just give an example of the ROI that you're able to estimate from the use of the platform.
Yes, of course. Great question. So really, our entire pricing model comes from this understanding that we want to give a very good ROI for our clients. Otherwise, this model will never work. So we do years of case studies and controlled experiments and try to see how good of the detection we can do, and good management decisions based on it can make a better crop. So today, on average, we reach $20 to $30 an acre in better profitability. That comes from either higher yields, because we find problems that are usually causing some yield loss, but we find them on time and help prevent them, or from cost savings on using less chemicals or applied only in the right areas, in the right dosage. So on both of these sides, it's kind of how we justify our cost with 3 or 4 or even 5 times ROI. Also, all the intangibles of monitoring and using your consultant and labor in an efficient way. So it comes from really a lot of just better decision making using.
That's great. Thank you very much. Any other questions before we conclude our webinar? Please be sure to speak up or type them into the chat function. Just by way of some housekeeping items before we end, just want to remind you all that this webinar session has been recorded and it will be archived for viewing later on our YouTube channel. So if you want to review it again, you're certainly able to do that. So just be watching out for your email notifications. We'll send out a link for how to find that later. And also, in general, if you have any feedback on our webinars that we've conducted so far, please be sure to pass that along. You can just phone into the FNA main office and they'll be able to direct you to the appropriate person. But before we conclude, any other questions from the field, from the floor? Last chance. Seeing none, I think we'll conclude this webinar session. Thank you.
Ofir, Tanner Borsa.
There's one.
Yeah, well,
Wait,
Blake.
there's
Blake.
Okay. Yeah, I see.
Hi, Ofir, Tanner Borsa here. When we've chatted in the past there, you had talked about using the software and the weather station map to predict risk incidents of various things. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yes, of course. So I didn't say a lot about this because you'll get that in the platform, but we're still validating a lot of it this season. So basically, this is how we visualize this feature. You select a specific disease from our list. You see your field view risk map plus the regional view. And you can browse today and the next 3 days to see how this risk may change. Bear in mind, this is only the conducive for a disease. So if the spore never got there, the disease may not spread. But if it did get there, the right conditions are there for it to continue to spread. That's what we look at. And today, this is a whole list of, you can see it's really focused on the soybean, canola, wheat, potatoes, and all the rest are more vegetable and special crops, with the idea of continuing to validate and ground truth these models. And then also our system automatically mistakes. If we see any false positive or false negatives, we can actually look into those and learn from them how to fix it the next time.
So just to take it a step further, we can use the software and the weather stations to look at what's happening in other areas and predict how fast something like Sclerotinia is going to be in a different area, correct?
Yes, exactly. If we use anonymized data from all our locations, so there's no risk here on privacy on anything, but we track the conditions throughout the entire country and can see the trend of moving from place to place. So there's definitely also a network effect here. Each and every one of you can probably benefit more from the platform if it's used by all the other neighboring farms or as many regions as possible.
Thank you, Ofir. One more question from the floor. Question is asked, is there a demo version available? So I'm assuming that's in respect to a demo of the platform, but CH can correct me if I'm wrong on that. But anyway, if you can speak to a demo version, Ofir.
Yeah, of course. We'll be happy to go into an in-depth webinar with anyone who wants to go deeper, or if you share our field boundaries with us, we can make a demo, a live demo on your own locations and download the history of satellite imagery and show you what our analytics can do for you. So reach out to us. So you can do that through FNA and AgriCity they'll forward it to us, or we can do that through our website, taranis.ag.ag.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Ofir. Again, should anyone have any questions after our session is completed, certainly don't hesitate to reach out to your member services manager at FNA or phone into the main number, and they'll direct you to the appropriate person, and we can definitely pass those questions on to Ofir and get back to you with the correct information. So thank you again for joining our presentation. Again, it will be archived. It has been recorded. But with that, I wish you all a good rest of the day and weekend, and thanks very much to Ofir for taking the time to inform us on this exciting opportunity. Thank you, Ofir.
No, thank you, Blake, and everyone. It's been great being here, and happy to keep in contact with all of you.
All right, well, we will be ending our session. Stay tuned for our next